Hello, everyone, and welcome to Celebrating Cinema. This podcast is made by Lab 111, produced by myself, music from Hugo, and artwork from Studio FFF. This episode is part of our growing series of interviews with some of our favourite filmmakers. You can listen back to recent interviews with Martijn de Jong, Mia Hansen-Love, and Gaspar Noé. Hopefully by now you will have heard of our new partnership with Mubi, an online curated streaming platform with some of the best hand-picked cinema from around the world. As part of our partnership, we have the pleasure to speak with artist-turned-filmmaker Amalia Ulman, here to discuss her feature debut, El Planeta. El Planeta is already available to stream on Mubi. If you don't have Mubi already, you can enjoy 30 days for free at mubi.com/lab111. I will also provide a link to this in the show notes of this episode on whichever platform you're listening to. For now, enjoy this interview with Amalia, who candidly shares what it's like to co-star with her mother in her very own first feature, as well as why she chooses to communicate with the world through visual images. I'm back again with another interview, and I'm joined by Amalia Ulman, here to discuss her first feature, El Planeta. Amalia, welcome.
Hello.
Before we discuss the film and what it's about, it will be helpful for our audience to understand more about who you are, because you're not just a filmmaker, you're an artist. I really think your artist career so far contributes or leads up to this film. And if people aren't familiar, you, of course, are known for your project Excellences and Perfection. And what may surprise people is you used Instagram as your canvas for this project, which was sort of a critique of how easily we can be fooled by archetypes or mainstream archetypes. And I wondered if you could talk a little about that and why you decided to use Instagram as your canvas for that project, because what I read is you're described as sort of Instagram's first great artist, which is a weird thing to be called, I think.
I hate that.
Yeah, but it's interesting enough to think that you used Instagram as the tool for this particular project, and I wanted to know your thinking behind that.
Well, my background is in net art, so I was always like doing projects that involved the use of the internet for a long time. So at the time when I was working Excellence and Perfections, Instagram was a good platform to use, most because it was like not much text was used. It was primarily image based, and that's what I needed. I said 1,000 times that like it could have been any other platform. Like it's not.
Was it quite a spontaneous decision, or was it just?
No, it was very well thought out. It was just like at the time that's like what people were using. Like if it had been another kind of project, like it would have used Twitter or something. Like it, I don't know. Like it's the platform itself or like the name of the platform. Like it's kind of like irrelevant for me. Like if it had been earlier, it could have been on LiveJournal or MySpace or something. But also, it wasn't really like a critique per se. Like I think it's more simple than that, and it's that like I was using fiction on a platform where like you're not supposed to use fiction, but that came from my interest in like propaganda, manipulation through media, and all that stuff. Like so, it wasn't really like I think for me it was important to be making art, not really just like making a critique or like making a point. So basically a lot of my work includes fiction, which is like what no one talks about. And what led to making a feature film is like I work with fiction, and as someone without resources, especially at the time, like my way of using fiction, my access was access to the internet, and that's where like I could use fiction, because at the time I didn't have the means to make a film, but I didn't have the means to like do other things. So like it's a bit more simple than that, and it's just like my work has mostly been narrative, but there's a lot of video essays and all of them are narrative, and they all play with this idea of like using things that are supposed to have a like inherent value about being legitimate, like PowerPoint presentations and things like that, and use that for fiction. So that's kind of like the thinking behind it. It has always been that way. So my work has included a lot of narration, storytelling, but also installations, like immersive installations and things that later on all together can make a film in a way. No, Planeta was also very involved in what would be like the costumes and like the environments. Everything was like, very fabricated. Like it was not like, that's not the house where I grew
Yeah.
up. That's not like, everything was like decorated according to like what I wanted to be in the film.
Yeah. So was it always the goal or the ambition to make a film in your other works? Could you say that you weren't able to make a film at that time? Was it always something you were wanting to evolve into doing?
Not consciously, because it was too far-fetched. I never had any reference from both my class background and my gender.
Yeah.
I didn't know many female directors, and the ones I knew of were like already really rich and from families of filmmaking and everything. And so I never thought like, oh, I want to make films. Like that was my main source of inspiration, were always like films and literature, because as I said, I'm very narrative. So that's, but I've never, I was like, where do I even start? Like I don't even have the means to do any of that. But then my work started getting more and more complex as an artist, and like having like more and more people working. So like at some point it developed into like a semi crew and like work. So from that to like a film, then it became easier, but only with encouragement of other fine artists that had like made films, and they like told me, of course you can, like you do all this work for the performances, like if you put all that work into this, you can definitely make a film. And
How does it feel to have made your first film then, thinking that it
it feels really good. It feels like I've been doing the wrong thing all my life. Because I feel like in a way I've always been too narrative for the art world, in a way that like it's not very practical first, because but then like it's not very welcomed, because that's not really how things are structured. And like it always made me feel like I'm the weird one for being so narrative. And then of course, like working in film, it just feels like natural. And I'm like, oh, maybe I just didn't know I should be making films. It's very easy for me to come up with stories and get excited about it. And
So obviously El Planeta, I'm going to ask you to sort of describe what it's about. But for those that don't know, it was shot in Gijon, in Spain, where you grew up, and it actually stars your mother. You two together are a duo. And how did it feel to act with your mom? It's quite a unique choice of casting, I think, and brave on both ends to do it together.
yeah, it was, well, as you can see in the film, like my mom is so, like she's so beautiful and so photogenic and charismatic that like it wasn't a hard choice. I actually like, I feel like every time I'm working, I don't like being in front of the camera.
Mm.
It's always like a last minute decision, almost like it might be easier if I am in front of the camera. But it's not like so I, for a long time, I thought, not for a long time, like at the beginning of the project when I was thinking about it, I was thinking, okay, this is gonna be the one, the time where I'm not in front of the camera. I'm gonna work with actors. Like I don't want to be doing that, because I like focusing on what's behind the scenes more. That brings me more joy than being in front of the camera. But then it became obvious that like we were the best option, like with the budget that we had and with the access that we had, and like we were the best option. And as soon as I tested out my mother, and like if she was in it, I had to be in it with her, So like I got most of my education about film from her.
She's very natural.
Yeah, she's like there's people that like I think are natural actors. They like have this position, and they're like always comfortable in front of the camera and always ready. And she's one of them. Like she's like that kind of person. And it's special. And like I think I was very happy to exploit this talent that like she's, like
It must be such a nice thing to have that freedom to do and sort of to share this experience with your mother. But could you tell us a bit about the film? Again, for me, it's sort of like the strange auto fiction that is just constantly playing with you throughout the whole time.
yeah. So the film, it's a dark comedy about two women, mother and daughter, that are about to get evicted, and it's
Mm.
like what's happening in the months prior to this eviction that is not really talked about too much throughout the film, but like you get a sense that they're like in a very desperate position, but it's like everything that's like how they're like trying to like survive in their downward spiral
They go up.
delusion and like maybe like denial of like, you know, the situation. And yeah, I think for this film, like it was a combination of films that inspired Planeta. A lot of it was like classic Hollywood, pre-code era, like comedies, or like everyone's hustling, but they were like also look very glamorous at the same time, and they're very funny, and they're not pitiful and like big, like they're not victims really. That, and I think I wanted to like bring that to Planeta, which is like these two women, they're going through a really rough time, but the film is not like a pitiful film. Like I wanted to be like slightly funny and like also allow them to like be bad people and commit mistakes and like not be perfect. And like I think I was very tired of seeing films about lower working classes that are always like examples of grace and like, you know, these like, oh, they're just such good people and they're like the, you know, and I was like, well, that's like not, like humans are humans. And you know, a lot of early Hollywood, but then one film that I think is a good mother-daughter story that I really love is Yang Ming's Girls Always Happy. She's a great director. For me, I think she's like doing a great job at like breaking like stereotypes of like what Asian cinema is like. Because she's like, I don't know, she's like a female Chinese Woody Allen type in a way. Like the pacing of the films are so crazy and the humor and everything, and it's like it's interesting to see someone be so different to most of the things that come out of Chinese independent cinema. So
Yeah, absolutely. For me, you sort of really enjoy playing with visual medium and distorting realities. And I wondered what you think is special about the moving image or the visual medium as a canvas for your work.
well, I think it's because through film I can convey a lot of things I've always been interested in, but separately, you know. So because I'm a big part of the photographic process as well. Like I work with Carlos Rigo, but like in all of my other previous works, I did photography myself, and I'm I'm very involved in photography. I think except sound, which is like an area where like I'm not educated and I'm not good at. Although obviously I like always try to work with people who are like Chicken, like and like the great soundtrack that he made and everything. I just like I'm interested in all these like aspects in like, you know, in like a separate way. And then working on a film allows me to like put all of those interests together.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I think it's like at the end of the day, I mean, this sounds like very non-romantic, but it's like, I don't know, like it makes it worth it for me. I feel like sometimes I'm very like scatterbrained and I work on all these things separately, and it's like all these things are forgotten, and here you are mentioning excellence and perfection again, you know, like so that's like a problem that left like having so many interests and then like being like to like having too many artworks out there and like, you know, like all like they represent different parts. So I think film allows me to put all that together into one film,
Yeah.
you know, and having control of like over the whole thing.
And I think the thing that surprised me most, just hearing from you speak, is that you don't like being in front of the camera. And a lot of your work is very much based around you as an artist. I wondered how you deal with separating yourself from the artist or knowing when to do that.
I don't have any like I've never had any problem with like separating myself from characters that I've developed in the past.
Just because you're on display almost in the work that you present.
Yeah, but personally, I don't have any problem seeing like, yeah, everyone asks me about, I never had any problem myself. Like people do have that problem. Growing up, I have Asperger's, and like I think what prevented me from working in other ways is that it's very hard for me. Well, not now as much, but like, I'm talking about when I was 20, when I was, it's hard for me to communicate with other people, or like, it's more like exhausting, So like a lot of the times I ended up doing the work on my own in my room with myself, because that's how I communicate with the world. So I think when you take that into account, it's like, oh, okay, then everything makes sense. That's how I'm working, is that it's just me alone in my room for many hours. And that started when I was a teenager and I had a camera. And it's like, that's like a way of communication. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like, that was sort of my language. It's like always being through like online, through images and sometimes images of myself as a way of communicating with people. So, and that's what comes natural to me. Like, that's like an impulse that I have since I was very little. Because like real communication, like it's harder for me. So I think like once you know that, like then like all my work makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Like that's like a language that I developed for myself. It's like that's how I communicate with the world. And it was only later on that, yes, I had enough tools to communicate and like work with a crew, work with a team and direct people and like, but for many years I felt more comfortable not having to do that and like directing myself, working with myself.
Yeah, well, I want to thank you for this interview. It's really great. And I think it puts things a lot into perspective, both your work and this film, in particular, El Planeta. And I think it comes at a really poignant time with sort of what we collectively are all going through. I think it's something that we definitely should all watch, just to sort of, I don't know, feel something in a way that's different to what we're used to feeling when we hear these stories. It's often very, like you said, very depressing, but it's a nice, fun spin on it in a way that's refreshing, I guess. So yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Planeta comes out on Mubi, so please, everyone, go watch it. And I know you're already working on the next film that tackles climate change, which I'm really excited to see, which is also based in where you grew up. But yeah, thank you very much again, Amelia, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this interview with Amalia Ulman. If you'd like to watch her feature debut, El Planeta, it's available to stream on Mubi. As I said before, Mubi are an online curated streaming platform offering some of the very best hand-picked cinema from around the world. As our new partners, we offer 30 days free at mubi.com/lab111. You can also find a link to this in the show notes and on our website. Feel free to send us any questions, ideas, or suggestions at celebratingcinema@lab111.nl. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at lab111, where you can keep up to date on all our latest episodes and recordings. Make sure to leave us a review and subscribe to us on whichever audio platform you're listening to us on. It helps us out more than you can imagine. This is a Lab 111 production, produced by myself, music from Hugo, and artwork from Studio FFF. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time.